What's up YouTube, Diamonds of Wargames, bringing you a Sky Striker deck profile. Now this is pure, obviously Sky Strikers can be used as an engine in certain other decks. This is just a pure build, and this is probably one of the most annoying decks to do right now, purely because 6 cards in the deck are well above their actual value, down to, you know, second-hand market, printing runs and stuff like that. Regardless, this is what could be considered as the new meta deck, so it's only right that we give you a full lowdown on the deck, what it does, how it does it, and then kind of how to beat it in a sense as well, and just show you, if you are lucky enough to have the cards you need, what you need to put in it to make the build that you want it to be. So, without further ado, I'll take you through the entire profile. And we start off with triple Sky Striker Ace Ray. Now, you can drop this down if you wish, however you want to see it. It does have recyclable capabilities, which is why 3 can sometimes be considered as a little bit too cloggy. So for those of you who don't know what this card does, you contribute this card as a quick effect, special summon 1 Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. While this card is in your graveyard, if a face-up Sky Striker Ace Link monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Sky Striker Ace Ray once per turn. So it gets to recycle itself, and it also gets to quick effect special summon its counterparts, I suppose, from the extra deck during either player's turn, which is always going to be a pain in the arse to deal with. Then you play a hand trap lineup. Now the hand trap lineup can be pretty much any ratios you want. They can be ghost spells, they can be reapers, they can be drill and lock birds. These are kind of the safest ones right now, as the most generic kind of elements. But then of course, if you know what you're going to be facing up, reapers in the mirror match to take out the Kagaris or the Kizaru, Suzukus is kind of the ideal place to make. After that, you're then looking at stuff like your drill and locks, which can really be quite damaging in the mirror match. And then ghost spells that can also slightly slow down, but the price of those have gone up a little bit because of the hype. The last monster we play is the Darkest Diablos. Now the reason we play this is, in the mirror match, getting over a 3k beta that can't be targeted is always going to be incredibly powerful. On top of that, your Sky Striker Ace Ray is of course a dark monster, so you can use her effect during your player's turn and get a Diablos onto the board, or back from your graveyard. It just gives you a bit of beating presence. Obviously, the downside of having Diablos on the board is, unless you get rid of it into an extra monster zone monster, you can't use most of your spells and traps for your Sky Strikers. And then, of course, the reason we play such a low count of monsters is because we don't want any monsters in the main monster zone. That actually hinders the deck. So that's it for the monster lineup. Very short and sweet and simple on that one. The majority then comes into the spells. That is your spell count. So for the spells, we've got triple Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. This is the money card. This is the 70, 80 odd pound card, all the way up to 100, 110, 120 dollars. This card is stupid price, and there's a reason why it's stupid price, and the fact that the set is now no longer in print doesn't help the values either, and the fact they're only going to do 1 print run, there's not going to be an unlimited version or anything like that right now, as far as we know, doesn't help the price of this card at all for any of you guys that want to play it on a cheaper level. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, add 1 Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except itself. It's not a hard once per turn or a soft once per turn. Then if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you draw 1 card. So you're going, cool, I'm going to search a specific card I want, and then I'm going to draw a card that can help me extend my blooming combos. You can understand why the price is there. It's just busted as hell. Triple Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones. This kind of helps get you into your link monsters a little bit quicker. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, special summon 1 Sky Striker Ace Token, Warrior Dark, level 1, attack 0, defense 0, in defense position, which cannot be tributed, and if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, when this effect resolves, you token gains 1500 instead. You're really only using this as a quick play kind of move to get into your Sky Striker Kigeki and moving your plays further forward that way if you don't open up the Ray. Next, we've got two Window Anchor. Now, Widow Anchor, sorry, not Window. Ugh. You can place it free if you want. There's two reasons I'm not playing it free. Number one, it can get a little bit cloggy at free. You don't always need it because we do play the recycle card in this deck. And number two, again, this card started off at 15 to maybe 20 quid when it first came out. It is now sitting at 30 to 40 quid, which is just ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. I've got the Engages, but I haven't got the Widows yet. So there's a fine line between the two. Obviously, if I want to play this a bit more competitively, I am going to have to get the Widows. But right now, I haven't got them myself. It's still an incredibly powerful card. It is like a mind control. It's so powerful, which is why it's so hyped and so hard to get hold of. But on the understanding that it is just, you know, I don't know how to explain it. The price on some of these cards is absolutely ridiculous. If this was a main set deck, it might be a little bit easier to kind of deal with. But as of right now, the price it sits at is, you know, way too high. So, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one face-up effect monster on the field, negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of this turn. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can take control of that monster until the end phase. So, it is a beautiful effect negator and stealer. Like, what more could you possibly want on this one? I mean, absolutely mental. Next up, we then play a lot of the one-offs, and we've got the one Sky Striker maneuver afterburners. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one face-up monster on the field, destroy it. Then if you have 3 or more spells and trap cards in the graveyard, you can destroy one spell and trap on the field as well. Again, the reason we're playing this at 1 is it's not as reliable as the others that we're playing at 2s and 3s, but it's still very, very powerful, and it kind of combos off nicely with Sky Striker maneuver, jamming waves. Again, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one set spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. Obviously, the downside of that is it has to be set. Then if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you destroy one monster on the field. That's the way you get past Diablos or cards that can't be targeted. So that is probably more important in those kinds of scenarios than the other one. We've then got one Sky Striker Airspace Aerozio. You can target one other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add one excavated Sky Striker card from your to your hand. Also shuffle the rest into the deck. Then, if you excavated a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the graveyard. If this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon one Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. And then we've got the Jar of Avarice, Sky Striker, Mecha Armor, Hercules base. Activate this card only if you control no monsters in your main monster zone. The equipped monster cannot attack directly. It can make a second attack on monsters during each battle phase. If the equipped monster destroys a monster by battle, while you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, draw 1 card. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target up to 3 Sky Striker cards in your graveyard, accept itself, and shuffle them into the deck. So it just lets you recycle your deck, because you can burn through these if your game is extended. One Sky Striker Mecha Modules multi-roll. Once per turn, you can target one other card you control, send that card to the graveyard. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell or spell card activating for the rest of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. So it stops you getting ashed or hand trapped or anything like that. You can only gain the previous effect once per turn. Once per turn during the end phase, you can set Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spell cards you activated this turn while this card was face up on the field, but banish them when they leave the field. Very, very nice. And then the one Shark Cannon. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish that monster, or if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can special summon that monster to your field instead, but it cannot attack. So it's a nice little monster reborn in a sense, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, or a DD Crow. Quick play as well. So that's it for the Sky Strikers spells themselves. Now onto the generic spells that we're playing. And we've got Triple Called by the Grave, because we really don't want to get hand trapped in this deck. Triple Foolish Bearer of Goods. This is actually very more helpful. And like 9 times out of 10, you'll be like, oh, but you're playing a lot of one-offs. Like, you're not going to send those. You're going to send Called by the Graves, or you're going to send cards that aren't useful to you. So like Triple Twin Twisters to get past anti-spells, more useful in the second game. But obviously you get past anti-spells, it sends another spell from your hand to the graveyard to help extend the fact that these cards need 3 or more spells in the graveyard to activate their effects. And then on top of that, with your Twin Twisters, it gets past the Imperial Orders. If they chain Imperial Order, you want to be getting rid of those, otherwise you are in serious trouble. You've then got the one upstart, again, for a bit of consistency and getting into the graveyard. Metamorphosis Fusion, put it in the graveyard, draw one card, and then of course meet the requirements of your Sky Strikers and recycle it. You've got the one Rhoda, again, does the exact same thing. Search out your warrior and another spell engrave. Foolish Burial, you want to be sending your Diablos, or of course you want to send your Ray. That can also help with a bit of consistency on top of that. And then you've got your one Monster Reborn. Ideally you want this for like your Diablos or some of your Link monsters. If you burn through them too quickly, it's a push for game. And then you've got 3 Infinite Impermanence. Just because it's an additional kind of hand trap in the sense that, as helpful as maybe like your Ash, your Ogres and all that stuff helps, having a trap in the main deck can sometimes be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. So I always prefer to have at least a trap in the deck, just to kind of work towards my opponent. Now onto the extra deck. Now the extra deck is open. It's entirely up to you. The only things that are staple are the triple Kagari and the triple Suzuku. Your Kagari needs 1 non-fire Sky Striker Ace monster. If this card is special summoned, you target 1 Sky Striker spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand, gain 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. You can only special summon each of these once per turn. Suzuku, 1 non-water Sky Striker, so ideally you go one into the other. Monsters your opponent controls loses 100 attack and defense for each spell and trap in your graveyard. Your opponent, in your graveyard once per turn during the end phase. If this card was special summoned, this turn you can add 1 Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand with a name different from the cards in the graveyard. You can only special summon Sky Striker Suzuku once per turn. So they're both very, very powerful. Kagari is obviously a little bit more powerful, in my opinion, than Suzuku for now. But obviously Suzuku gives you that search on top of that. The rest of the Link monsters are entirely open to you. You can flood these with Reaper targets, or of course you can flood them with anything else you kind of want. But ideally you can use Cerberus, Phoenix and Unicorn. You actually make those as well, so they're good as both Reaper targets and of course general usefulness. You got your Trispania, you got your Deco Talker, you got your Borreload. These cards are kind of the ones that you put in and you're actually going to use and play. The rest then comes down to Reaper targets. Now right now I've chosen 3 cards that I think are the most important Reaper targets that you don't already play. Isolde for the Goki matchup, Invoked, of course, the Invoke matchup, and then Spiral Double Helix for the Inspiral Nightmare. You hit either of these cards in those respective decks, you seriously hurt their deck and their consistency. And pretty much when you've got a deck like Sky Strikers that are considered to be the new meta, you're just going to run away with it once you've got these cards. You take these cards away from your opponent and then start building your board, they're pretty much going to scoop. Anyway, that is it for the deck profile. Again, most of these can be used as engines, so some people use the Sky Striker engine in stuff like Gokis and other decks around right now that can afford to run them. But as a pure build, they can still do a huge amount of damage, and I don't give it too long. By the time everyone can start to get a hold of these decks themselves, you'll start seeing Sky Strikers topping more events and just being more resilient in the meta. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always, guys, happy dueling. Also YouTube, thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button, and of course don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings and many more Yu-Gi-Oh videos coming up for you all year round, so don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always guys, happy dueling.